Let's go ahead and begin. I turned it up a little bit. It was only at 69, by the way. So, today we're going to continue on our discussion in chapter 12. We've been talking about a few things, right? We've been talking about running a race. We've been talking about those that have gone before us. In fact, Josh spent some time talking about those people in the Hall of Fame and what they went through. What their call to action was and how they actually lived that. We have them guiding our paths. We have Christ who has actually completed the race, and we're getting to the point where we've talked about discipline a little bit. So do we all have good discussions on discipline? Right? Kind of. Everyone's like, yeah, right. The important part to remember when it comes to discipline is that the discipline is happening for a reason. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It is one of the keystones for me in remembering that these things are not just random, they're happening for a purpose. But I read through James, and because of certain things in my life, I don't actually read through it necessarily by picking up the Bible, because God has really written this on my heart to consider it joy when I encounter trials of various kinds, knowing that the testing of my faith will produce perseverance. And let that perseverance work so you may become perfect and complete, not lacking in anything. It's written on my heart. It's something that I've had to focus on, because when I encounter any type of trial, when I encounter any type of failure on my part, that's where my mind goes. I'm encountering this because I messed up. I failed somehow. And I have to remind myself, I have to bring myself out of that and say, no, I'm encountering this trial not because I messed up, but because better can be done, because I can be perfected. I can learn perseverance, and I can get to where I'm supposed to go. I can become perfect and complete. And I remember that I need to find joy in that process. It's a difficult thing to remember sometimes. A lot of people have issues with it. And from my background, from where I come from, my thought processes is one of the things that I've really struggled with, is trying to find that joy. That's why you've heard me in the past rally against happiness, because happiness is a fleeting moment. The happiest place on earth, it's not so happy for you when you're not there anymore. That's all I'm saying. It's a fleeting thing. So let us continue. Now, normally right now what I would do is I would just read verses 12 through 17, but I'm going to start out at the beginning once more and read through to 17, so we bring ourselves up to date. So it says here, therefore, so it's a continuation, a summary, if you will, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated at the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not given your lives in the struggle against sin. And have you forgotten the encouraging words that God spoke to his children when he said, "My child, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as a child." As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Whoever heard of a child who has never been disciplined by his father? If God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you are illegitimate and are not really his children at all. Since we respected our earthly fathers who disciplined us, shouldn't we submit even more to the discipline of the Father for our spirits and live forever? For our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best that they knew how, but God's discipline is always good for us, so that we might share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It is painful. But afterward there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those that are trained in this way. So, take a new grip with your tired hands and strengthen your weak knees. Mark out a straight path for your feet so that those who are weak and lame will not fall but become strong. Work at living in peace with everyone and work at living a holy life, for those who are not holy will not see the Lord. Look after each other so that none of you fails to receive the grace of God. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. Make sure that no one is immoral or godless like Esau, who traded his birthright as the firstborn son for a single meal. You know that afterwards, when he wanted his father's blessing, he was rejected. It was too late for repentance, even though he begged with bitter tears. So as we talk about understanding the path that is before us, as we understand the fact that we're in a race, and we understand that we have to be coached so that we know how to run that race. So we've got Christ who has gone before us. We've got those that are listed on the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Faith fame. The faith, what? Faith fame? Fame? Faith. Hall of Faith. It's in there somewhere. But as we talk about these people that have gone before us, the understanding is that, there's a path that has been carved out. There's a path that has been carved out that we can follow. Now, it is our task, as we are told here, to keep that path up. Now, how many of you are into hiking? All right, so the few of you know. If you go out in, we have so many national forests that are around us and parks and that type of thing. If you go out and you go hiking, if you go even to Multnomah Falls, right, there's a path, right, you can follow, right? None of you, I'm sure, Colin maybe, but I don't think anybody's out there hacking their way with a machete trying to make their own trail, right? Right? Very few of us. So there is a path. Now, how did that path get there? How did that come to be? Did God just say, people are going to want to visit this waterfall, so when I build it, it will have a trail around it? Well, kinda, right? Because there was a place for people to kind of go up on. But the reason that the path is so well defined now is because time after time after time, people have actually walked that path so much that our forestry service said, you know what, people keep walking this way, we should just make it a full-blown path. So they came in and they, did a little bit of adjusting, built a bridge here, did a few things over here. Next thing you know, you've got a path, retaining wall, so the dirt doesn't fall down. But that path takes maintenance. What would happen to that path if, we disappeared from the earth? Or if suddenly everybody decides, Multnomah Falls sucks, so I'm never going to go there. And nobody ever visits the falls again. What's going to happen to that path? It's going to get overgrown. It's going to deteriorate. There's erosion that's going to take place. Those nice barriers that they put up will rot away. It'll be overtaken by brush, and it'll be difficult for anybody, even Colin with his machete, to go up there and find that path. You imagine if someone went up there who was lame or weak, who had no experience. It would be impossible for them to follow that trail. We are told here to take up our grip with our weak hands. Trust me, for some of us that's getting harder and harder to do. To take up that grip, to strengthen our knees. So not all of us are able to do this. It's a call that has been passed down through the Scriptures time and time again. You see this same type of phraseology in Isaiah, for instance. To the call to strengthen, to gird yourself, to take up. And the reason is we need people to keep that path clear. You see, the path has been hewn out for us. The God's Rec Crew, the National Forestry Service of God, I don't know, they have come through and they have pounded down the path so it is straight. You see, in even Christ's time, most of the paths were made and they would be straight furrows that people would follow, and that was where the chariots or the wagons had gone. That's where the camels had walked over. These were the natural things that had beaten down, so people would naturally have to go there because they didn't have the National Park Service like we do. But God has sent His holy National Park Service, and He has hewed out the path that we are to take. And it is a straight line, perfect path with no stumbling, with no issues. It is so easy for us to walk down. But some people have problems with that. Why do some people have problems with that? Why am I adding words in? I don't know. People have problem with it because to the left and to the right there are so many distractions. There are so many things that we feel that we need to take up upon burden. As you walk down that straight path, you look to the left and you see a little shop with some little curios that you might want on your shelf. You walk down the path and you see a store that sells, homemade beef jerky. You walk down the path and you see this thing or that thing. All of these things that would sidetrack you. All of these things that if you bought from each of those stores, you'd be carrying this heavy pack. Now, it's great when you're going backpacking and you have everything that you need, but you have to keep your load light. So as we look now towards going down that path, we have to remember that we're running a race. So all these little things that we've picked up at all these little shops have to be, shipped home instead. They have to be discarded. They're burdens that we need to unburden ourselves from, just as we discussed a couple weeks ago. One of the ways that we learn that we need to let go of these things is through the discipline that God gives us. And it's not a happy time when that takes place, but we are called to find the joy in that. So as we're told now to retain our grip, to strengthen our knees, to march down the path, those of you that have absolutely no difficulty with your hands or with your legs, girding yourselves up and going, do it. Set that path. Keep it maintained. So those that have problems with their grip, those that have problems with their knees, can march behind you, not encumbered, because you have taken care of that for them. You see, we're not told to run this race by ourselves. We have those that have gone ahead that show us the path. We have our guides. We have our coach who's allowing these things to happen to train us up so that we're strong. But we're all in it together. Our community is running this race. How many of you have watched the opening of a marathon? Right? Huge mass of people, all at the starting line, ready to get going. As they all start out from the path, time and time again, what happens? Somebody stumbles and they fall. It's inevitable. When you get thousands of people lined up at one point, somebody is going to fall. Now, there are those racers that will just continue to race on ahead, just, sidestep, keep going, because they've got a race to run. But then you have those racers that will come alongside, make sure you're okay, lift you up, dust you off, get you set back on the path again. We are called to be those type of racers. Because inevitably, when it gets towards the end of the race, we're going to be tired. We're going to be exhausted. Our bodies are going to start to fail us. We know that our body's going to fail us for a fact. Some of us have already started. You need somebody to come alongside you. You're not running this race by yourself. It is so much better when you're running a race to have a partner in that. Do you know that's one of the reasons that they send teams of people to track meets? You have buddies that you run with on a regular basis. You have people that can run ahead of you, people that you can match pace with. it's not a lonely sport like everybody thinks it is. Source, I ran races. It can be so lonely if you try to go it by yourself. It'd be so easy to get entangled, to get burdened down. Oh, I got to remember to do this. Oh, I got to keep breathing. I got to keep going. Oh, my body's failing. When you have somebody with you to help set the pace, when you have somebody with you to help keep your mind where it needs to be instead of focusing on all these little things that need to take place, it helps you along the way. If you don't have that help, you're going to get bitter. I can't believe I have to run this race. Why am I doing this? I can't believe that I thought that I was capable of continuing. This is obviously insurmountable. It is too much to bear. It's too much to bear. It's because you're trying to hoard everything. You're trying to carry everything yourself. We are told to unburden ourselves. We are told to partner with people. We are told to form a community so that we won't become bitter. We are told to form this path so the weak that can follow along behind, so the trail will be maintained. All of these things are important. You have to keep that in the forefront of your mind at all times, because if you don't, what happens? I'm really, really hungry. I would kill for some stew. And lo and behold, a brother's there ready to sell you a bowl. All you need is your birthright. See, we just went through this story with the boys in Firewalkers, Jacob and Esau. It's real important to understand what took place here is not the simple, yeah, whatever, I'm not using it, give me some soup. There was a complete shift that took place. When that stew changed hands for his birthright, as the firstborn son, he was the one that was going to inherit everything that his father had set forth. He was the one that the plan would flow through. Because of his disdain for that, because of his focus on what was happening right here and right now, he chose for a bowl of soup. It was good soup, but it was still just a bowl of soup. So people, they say when Jacob deceived his father and went in and got the blessing, well, he's obviously messed up for deceiving it. No. His brother had given him the right to do that by selling that birthright to him. When Esau comes in bitter and upset, saying, give something to me, it's because he didn't value what he had when he had it. And he had given it up. He had sidestepped. He had chosen for convenience instead of running the race. So we are told not to be like that. That means that we have to have in the forefront of our mind, am I doing this because it's comfortable? Or am I doing this because this is what I need to do? And if you can say time and time again, I'm doing this because it's comfortable, you're buying some really good stew. But you're leading down the path to being bitter. Because when you see the community around you, when you see your brothers and sisters get your blessing that you think it belongs to you, that's a bitter pill to swallow. It has to be a thoughtful process. It has to be on the forefront of your mind. And if the only thing on the forefront of your mind is your comfort, you're going to get tripped up. So we are called today to strengthen up our grip, to strengthen our knees, to march boldly down that path, a full-out run. To give it our all, to understand God's discipline, to react to God's discipline. We're told to unburden ourselves so that we can run this marathon. And we're told to do it together as a community, as a family. To hew the way so that those that may not be able to can still follow along. So they may not be tripped up. This is the way we are to run the race. So I would like you to ask just a couple questions of yourselves. Am I taking these actions with only me in mind? AKA seeking my own comfort. Do I feel like I'm able to strengthen my grip and strengthen my knees? Understanding that it's not just literally, oh, I can grab this. What is my thought process? That's kind of open-ended. There's really only kind of one answer in that. So I would like you to take the opportunity now as you spend time in your cell groups to think about those questions. Discuss. Let's go to it.